The fire that destroyed some 2,400 buildings in Fort McMurray, Alberta, and forced the evacuation of the entire city is now classified as being held. But will those who live through it ever get over it? Let's find out. Join me in welcoming Levita and her mother Lorraine to the studio.
Hi, Molly.
All right, so you were?
I was in Fort McMurray, yeah.
Yes, so you saw everything firsthand. Walk us through that process.
So it was challenging for me because I just got off a TV show. I had come home, had a few days at home, and then apparently there's this fire and people are being evacuated. I was doing some work and my boyfriend had called me and said, check up on your sister because my sister is disabled. And I had called her and she had no idea what was going on. And I said, okay, call a cab and come to my house so that if we are evacuated, I'd be together with my sister and my boyfriend and we could leave together. And she called the cab and then she had called me back and said the cabs aren't running. So I'm thinking it's midday, the cabs aren't running, and everything had seemed fine when I'd left in the morning. So I hopped in my vehicle to go get my sister and it was backed up traffic. What would have been a 5-minute drive actually was 45 minutes and back-to-back traffic, and people are driving over barricades and there's ash actually falling from the sky. So I'm starting to freak out. I can see smoke and I'm well aware like everybody's trying to get out right now. And I noticed that even, you know, my car was on 2 bars of gas and I said, I need to fill up. And my sister lives right near a gas station and I had pulled up into the gas station and once again, there's a lineup from like outside the road. And when I got in to fill up my pump, I was filling it up and a guy had come up with a jerry can and said, my truck is like out of gas on the road. It's broken down. I only have $5 cash. Can you fill this up? And I'm just like, in that moment, it's like, wow, like this is really happening. This is bad. Like people are freaking out. Like it was.
So up until that time, it really had not occurred to you. The gravity of the situation had not really hit you. Yeah?
Not at all. Like we had known that they'd said that there was a forest fire. They were monitoring it and all of that stuff. But and that they were evacuating like Beacon Hill, like the far areas of town. But there have always been forest fires in Fort McMurray, like the forest area, and they'd always gotten them under control. Like in the summers, you'd hear, oh, there's a forest fire over here or over there, but they never spread to be this catastrophic, this big, where it actually burnt into the city.
Right.
So I guess for everybody else in their mind and in my mind, I was thinking, okay, like when I'd heard about it, they'll get it under control. Like they
So
do.
were they not telling you on radio or on television about how bad the fire was?
I think they were monitoring it and talking about it, but I think when the wind had caused the fire to jump the river, that's really when, like, because it happened so fast at jumping the river, so it wasn't like a huge, like, everybody panic. It was just kind of like, yeah, it hasn't crossed the river. But once that happened, it spread so fast. So
Well,
there wasn't like, it didn't feel like there wasn't any, like, I know that our area of town wasn't being evacuated, so I didn't think until we're evacuated. That's why I called my sister, like, in case we get evacuated, right? And then eventually it was like a whole city, fire was all around, like it's burning on, like you should leave. So for us, I was very scared because there's only one way out of Fort McMurray, and it's to take the road south, right? And that takes you towards Edmonton. But the amount of traffic, when I was at that gas station, I said, there is no way that we're gonna make it out with the traffic backed up. And we're so late getting to all this that, like, traffic was at a standstill in town. So I'm like, my boyfriend said, get your sister, you guys are coming back to our place and we're going north towards the oil sand camps, which is what we did. And we ended up having to stay in an oil sand camp and eat the cafeteria food that would have been fed to the workers. And it was hard to experience and see, but I definitely think it was an eye-opener for, you know, the community to recognize what's important in life.
Right.
And how quickly things can change and that nobody can control Mother Nature. So
I want to bring your mother into this conversation, and tell us about the time when you got the call about this fire. What went through your mind?
Someone had said to me that there was if I checked the net, there was a fire in Fort Mac, but I wasn't given the impression that it was anything big. And then I remember Levita calling me, and at this point I think she was a little bit nervous and scared. She was on her way to get her sister, and she said, "Mom, I'm trying to get Raina. There's fire here." And she said, "I can see ashes falling on my car, and it's back-to-back traffic. I don't know if I can get to her, Mom." And at that moment, my heart started to race. I'm thinking, what is happening? Are my girls going to be okay? Am I ever going to see them? Are they going to end in a fire? And the thing that stuck out to me the most was when Levita said she felt that, she thought, what, today might be my last day on this earth. When she was looking around and seeing what was going on around her. But the only assurance that I had was I knew that if that were the case, the girls had a strong faith and they loved the Lord, and I thought, well, at least they know where they're going, so that's the biggest thing for me. And just talking to her on the phone and trying to walk them through that and getting her sister to follow Levita's instructions, because at one point she wasn't sure if she should go outside or she should stay in, and it was just wondering whether or not they were going to get to safety. So I felt good knowing that I was able to speak to them on the phone step by step and knew that, okay, they were getting out, and knowing that Levita had gotten to a place of safety where I felt she was given favor, and they were well taken care of at the camp. Okay. So, yeah.
So what's the big takeaway from this horrendous experience?
I think the big takeaway for me was you never think when the incident in Slave Lake happened, you're like, wow, these people, you can never imagine that being you, and you don't know how you're going to react in that experience. And I think the takeaway for me is you really have to take life day by day and appreciate every moment, because for the residents of Fort McMurray, it could have ended up differently for a lot of people. And I think that it's just be grateful for your friends and family, and don't take a minute for granted and think that you're exempt from anything that you see in the movies, in the news. It could be you any day.
Any day. Yeah. Look what happened in Orlando. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Anything can happen to anyone, anytime. Yeah. So, would you like to add something to what Levita has shared in terms of takeaway?
Well, Levita has hit the nail on the head. That's the most important thing, is that we sometimes act like we're guaranteed tomorrow. Most of us live our lives that way, and we amass wonderful things, and they're all wonderful things to have. But again, it could be taken away at a moment, and I don't think most of us think, okay, if everything that I have today were taken away from me, what's left of me? What am I about? What is this life about? We are not in control of nature. We are fortunate to be on this planet, and showing love to one another and being helpful in the time of crisis and being non-judgmental, it is very important, because that is love, and I think that's the greatest thing that we're here to give, is love to one another. And in a time of crisis, hey, what better time to show that.
So, as you heard, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Anything can happen to any one of us at any time. And so the best thing is to cherish our family, our friends, people who are close to us, and always live knowing that if this is the last day of our lives, then are we ready to meet our Maker? Right? So thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.